The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Okay, so what do we have here? We have some characters, looks like they're at a party, and we have a man here who's riding a horse, and a man here who's riding a horse. Okay, let's see what this story is all about. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Say that with me. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow was the quietest place in the world. Besides being haunted, nothing much happened there, until the night of the Van Tassel party. Skinny old Ichabod Crane marched into the party with his head held high, resembling a scarecrow, dressed in a fancy clothes. He was at the party for one reason, Katrina Van Tassel. Hold on right there. It says he resembled a scarecrow. Resembled a scarecrow. A scarecrow is something that was put into a cornfield to scare away predators, to scare away things that wanted to eat the crops. So a scarecrow was usually very tall and very skinny. That is what it means by he resembled a scarecrow. The stunning Katrina stood out at the party like a red rose on a snowy day. She chatted with Brom Bones, who was as massive as a bull and as mean as a bear. He enjoyed riding around on his horse, Daredevil, and causing mischief. Brom Bones also liked Katrina. Ichabod mustered his resolve and went straight up to them. "Excuse me, Katrina," Ichabod said. "Would you care to dance?" He's asking Katrina to dance. How do you think Brom Bones feels about that? Happy or angry? So Ichabod is feeling very hopeful here. Hopeful. Let's move to the next page. Brom Bones' face turned as red as a boiled lobster. "I'd love to dance," Katrina said as she grasped Ichabod's hand. Ichabod and Katrina twirled around the dance floor as if there were no tomorrow. Ichabod imagined he could dance his way right into Katrina's heart. Stranger things have happened. It's not that she didn't like him. She liked him fine, but a beautiful girl must weigh her options. So what does weighing your options mean? What it means is that she needs to decide what is the better choice. She weighs her options, like weighing a feather versus a stone. The stone would be heavier in weight, so the stone would have more impact, a better option. Let's keep going. The longer they danced, the angrier Brom Bones became. When the band took a break, Ichabod and Katrina stopped for a drink at the punch bowl. There towered Brom Bones, sharing ghost stories with a group of friends. "I'll tell you the scariest ghost story of all," boasted Brom Bones. He stared directly at Ichabod. "Have you ever heard of the Headless Horseman?" "No," Ichabod muttered, and gulp, gulp. Brawn Bones began to whisper, and the group leaned in closer. Every night at midnight he rides through the town on his horse, looking for his missing head, Brawn Bones said. I've seen him with my own eyes. I was riding along late at night when this fellow came trotting up. I asked him if he wanted a race. He didn't say a word because he had no head. So what's happening in this page? Ichabod and Katrina are dancing, and Brawn Bones is getting angry. He begins to tell a story. Let's see what happens next. So I took off on Daredevil, Brawn bellowed, and he came tearing up behind me. I raced him right up to the church bridge. Once his horse set foot on the bridge, he disappeared in a flash of fire. The audience stood in tense silence. If you ever see the Headless Horseman, Brawn Bones said, head to the other side of the church bridge. Otherwise, you're done for. Of course, if you're as fast as me, you have nothing to worry about. Okay, so we see here Brawn Bones is retelling the story of what happened to him being chased by the Headless Horseman. And he says in a warning to ride to the other side of the bridge. The bridge. Let's see what happens next. That was really brave, Katrina fawned. Her eyes shine like jewels in candlelight as they glazed up at massive Brawn Bones. Ichabod took one look at Katrina and grunted. Great imaginary story. He grabbed Katrina's hand and quickly pulled her toward the dance floor. They danced a few more songs, but Brawn Bones' story was stuck in Ichabod's head. Just before midnight, Ichabod said farewell to Katrina and promised to visit her soon. Then he climbed on his sad old plow horse, which was almost as skinny as Ichabod himself, and set off home. Okay, so let's review what's happening on this page. Katrina and Ichabod dance a few more times, but then Ichabod is distracted and he goes home. Okay, let's keep reading. The wind whistled through the branches. An owl shrieked. The Headless Horseman filled Ichabod's mind. He attempted to sing to keep himself brave, but his voice caught in his throat. Then he heard another sound coming up behind him. A horse. A horse and a rider trotted up next to Ichabod, but it was too dark to see him. A trot is kind of a slow gallop. It's like a... So, he says, good evening, Ichabod said. The rider said nothing. Up ahead, Ichabod could make out the church bridge. He started to ride a little faster. Then, Ryder matched his pace. This is strange fog we're having, Ichabod said, trying to make conversation. Again, the rider said nothing. The moon slid out from behind the cloud. Ichabod looked over at the rider and froze. The rider had no head. In his hand, the rider held a huge pumpkin that seemed to glow in the moonlight. He raised it high above where his head should have been as it burst into flames. So let's talk about what's happening in this page. First, Ichabod is very scared and he's riding along. Then the other horse and rider come up to him. He tries to talk to them but realizes they cannot talk because they have no head. Then, at last, he sees a pumpkin in place of a man's head. Then it bursts into flames. All right, what's going to happen? Ichabod screamed and kicked the sides of his horse. The horse barely sped up. The safety of the church bridge waited up ahead. Faster, Ichabod yelled to his old plow horse. Almost there! The rider was close, but Ichabod heard his horse's hooves stomp on the wooden bridge. He sighed with relief. I made it, Ichabod screamed. He heard the rider's horse behind him. He turned to look from the safety of the bridge. A flash of flames rushed toward him, and all went dark. Oh, let's talk about this page, okay? What happened? It's very exciting. Ichabod races on his horse to the safety, and he finally makes it to the bridge right here. Then he heard the rider's horse and the pumpkins on fire start coming towards him. The next morning, a schoolboy discovered Ichabod's horse grazing in a field by the church. On the ground next to the old bridge, he found Ichabod's hat and a scorched pumpkin. Ichabod himself had disappeared. Not long after Ichabod vanished from Sleepy Hollow, Brom Bones married Katrina. When folks told the story about Ichabod Crane, Brom Bones would always smile. Some said Brom Bones drove Ichabod away. Others, those who knew about such things, swore the headless horseman had taken him on that dark night. The end. And these are your vocabulary words. Bellowed, fond, haunted, mischief, mustard, scorched, shrieked, stunning, vanished.